Welcome back to another episode of the Aro Benaiah Show, where we uncover stories of trade people, entrepreneurs, innovators who are shaping the future of hands-on industries. Today, we are joined by James Kell, a former constructor CEO turned safety culture pioneer after 25 years in construction, including leading a 150 million building company. James saw firsthand that traditional safety approach weren't working. This realization led him to co-found Scratches, a platform that transformed workplace culture through instant recognition and positive reinforcement. His insight challenged the old school push and comply, apply approach, and offer practical ways to build safer, more engaging workplace. James, it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Hey.
So, James, what was it like growing up for you?
Well, I grew up in Sydney, Australia, and I was the son of a builder. And so when I finished my high school, I did carpentry and so learned on the tools. So from 15 years old, I was working on the school holidays as a carpenter, and then worked full time, learning the trade. Studied it at university, building construction, and then continued working in the industry.
That was amazing. It was the fact that you were doing the trade and still you went into school to learn on the trade. That was really
Yeah, I used
admiring.
to. We would do one full day a week at university and 2 nights a week. So that was 20 hours a week study, and then all the homework, and then working full time as well. It was a busy time, but when you're young, you got time. When you're young, you got energy, I should say.
Yeah,
So it was fine.
yeah, lot of energy. Okay, growing up, were those what was this early experience more like? Do you have a mentor that shape your views on work and leadership? I know you already have your dad, but more like what was the relationship like?
Yeah, he believed in doing the hard jobs himself. So he always taught me that find the worst jobs, and if you're a leader, find the worst jobs and pretty much do them. And I took that as good guidance because it takes your ego out of the picture.
Hmm.
It's very much in line with Australian culture because we all come from criminals. 200 years ago, the English sent the prisons were overcrowded, and so they created this new country called Australia, and they just discovered it, and they sent all their prisoners over here. So Australia, as a result, has a culture of being it's not class based like a lot of old
Yeah.
European countries such as England and France and those sorts of countries. It's very egalitarian. So I remember my father, who was the mayor of our part of Sydney, and he was also on the board of the school, which was also quite prestigious. And during one, I don't know if you have fetes in Nigeria, but they had a school fete, which is basically like a Saturday where everybody sort of comes, all the families come, and it's a busy day in the school, right? And the bins were overflowing, and there was the rubbish removal people were not working on that day. And Dad saw that the bins were overflowing, so he became the rubbish removal guy for that day. He was on the board of the school council, like I say, the mayor of the town. But he said it needed to be done, so I'll do it, no problem. So I that was really helpful for me. I learned a lot out of that. I was quite proud of my dad for not making a fuss. He didn't do it to prove a point. He just said, "Well, the bins are overflowing. Nobody else is going to do it. I'm happy to do it." You know. So that was I learned a lot out of that.
Wow, that was pretty amazing. And the fact that you make reference of him saying, you learning that ego should not get in the way. The fact that when things get tough and there's nothing to do the lowest kind of job. That actually just for something in me. I'm like, wow, that was a little short, more like quote, but really profound,
Yeah,
actually. Thank you so very much for that.
pleasure.
Okay, your first hands-on experience in construction, and what did that taught you about the industry?
Yeah, so I worked my apprenticeship in Australia, in Sydney and Canberra, and to do that, you learn under somebody who's much older, and you have to do the boring, difficult jobs usually at the start
Yeah,
because you don't know anything, even though you're young and you want to be the boss of the company and you're very ambitious typically, but they get you to do the jobs that need to be done that are not very skilled. And so that again is really good for the ego and good for, it's surprising how much you learn and how you can take from even the most mundane jobs, I found. So then the company had an opening in China, and so I went over there and uh, became a junior foreman in China. I was in my early 20s, and then I ended up running the China business, and that was culturally very, very different, working with the Chinese laborers and builders. So in some ways, it was really different because the two cultures are so different. But in other ways, it's still concrete that needs to be poured and
yeah.
finished. And there's a certain standard that you need to demand. And so, in some ways it's very similar. In other ways, it's very different. And then I came back and took over the business, running the company. So
Wow,
we
wow.
had clients like Apple. We built the Apple stores here in
Ooh,
Australia and a few other things like that.
wow, wow. That was amazing. I think it's the fact that you make reference of it's still the same concrete, which simply means when it comes to trade business, despite the culture might be different, still the same skill set, but different people, different culture, which actually speak
Yeah,
volume to if you are good at what you do. You might be in different place, different culture, but your skill will still must be similar to what is being demanded, the specification and everything.
exactly. And one of our project managers, in fact, even when you're a foreman, you still learn from someone older and more experienced. And we had a project manager who was an excellent project manager called Ken Caterson. And he had never left Australia. So we had our first project in China. And this guy came over from Australia, never been outside of Australia, so did not speak Chinese, did not speak a word of Chinese, had never been to China. And it was really interesting seeing him interact with the builders. So there were translators, but the
Yeah,
builders, of course, were Chinese. They didn't speak any English, and Ken didn't speak any Chinese. But he could get through to them because I think we humans have some things in common. And what Ken could do was to tap that. So, for example, and recently with my current business, we've been studying this. There's three needs that we all have. One of them is autonomy. I need to feel as though I'm making
yeah,
decisions for myself. And same with you, Aro, and same with everyone else. So, autonomy, competence. I need to feel like I'm good at what I'm doing. And then relatedness. I need to feel that I'm relating to other people. And what Ken was really good at doing was channeling and harnessing those three needs and getting the best out of the people that were working for him, including me. I was part of his team, but he was, you know, feeding those needs in me just the same as he was in the Chinese builders. So it really didn't matter where that guy was working. Wherever he was working with humans, he would get the best out of them. It was really,
Wow.
really interesting. Yeah.
Oh, that was amazing. It just shows that he really know how to manage people and not micromanage them, being that he understood autonomy, competence, and relativeness, which he plays big volumes. Because sometimes when it comes to trade business, I think there's this unspoken words that, owing to the level of skills one has over years, you could actually relate to someone with a language that may not be encoded in words, but they will get to
Mm.
understand and be able to relate to what you do. Yeah, thank
Yep.
you. All right,
Yep.
you have gone from apprentice carpenter to CEO and even manage projects internationally. What was the defining moments along those journey?
Defining moments were when I came back to Australia, the business was in trouble and financially. And so when I I was invited to help the CEO, and who was my father, and I said to him, I really can't make any changes unless I'm the CEO. And he was fine with that. Like I said, it's the same father who I spoke about before, who really doesn't have an ego. And he said, fine, you do that. I'll support you from not being the CEO. And so we had this really good partnership where I would do what I thought was right, and Dad was there to support me. And I never blamed him for any errors that had been made beforehand. And he never blamed me for any errors that I made when I was in the role, because you're always going to make mistakes.
Yeah,
I mean, in anything, right? But when you're the CEO, your mistakes are magnified because you're leading so many people and you're responsible for so much money that when you make a mistake in that role, it's
yeah,
tends to be a bigger mistake. And so that was my path. So I ended up running the company for 10 years. After that, near death experience at the start, because construction's hard. I don't know what it's like in Nigeria. I'm sure
yeah,
it's
yeah. Good to
similar.
hear.
It's a very difficult game. Every now and then you have very profitable years or projects, but then you have some real problem projects. You've got
Yeah,
everything in construction.
yeah, yeah. Actually, because me, I do a bit of. I'm not actually fully into construction, but I run a painting. I run painting. I have my crew that actually more like take out for site for painting, and also I run industrial cleaning. And over time, I've seen some particular jobs. I'm like, wow, I wish I had know what I knew now. I would take up that project because some
Yeah,
are
yeah, yeah.
profitable. I
That's right.
saw I will still have to reinvest in it just to finish the project. I'm like, what am I
Yeah.
doing?
Yeah, that's right. So and sometimes to keep your word or to even just
Yeah,
stay afloat on a project, you've got to just work crazy hours
yeah,
and
and
yeah,
deliver.
it's difficult. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
actually. All right, thank
Mm.
you. Okay, running your company, 150 million company, is a huge responsibility. What does that experience actually taught you? Taught you about people, leadership, safety. Yeah, you make reference of the fact just now that when you are a CEO, which simply means key person of influence, being the one that everything rises and falls on you, and yeah, your mistake allowed, your influence allowed too. So owing to you leading as a CEO, leading more like 150 million industries, yeah, how in terms of leadership, safety, and yeah, your work view, how did you actually more like put everything in perspective and be able to kind of do very well in it?
Yeah, I think one of the main things with that I learned with leadership early on is ownership, is accountability. And I'm a sailor as well. I have a sailing business called Sailing Virgins. It's based in the Virgin Islands. And when you're a sailor, if you're the captain of your sailing boat, then you are responsible. And there's an example of this that we watched around the world yacht race. It used to be called Volvo Yacht Race. Now I think it's just called the Round the World Yacht Race, where you have teams and they race around the world. And there was one Australian skipper, actually, one Australian captain of a team called Vestas. It was a Danish team. And what happened was that they were on the Indian Ocean, and these boats are cranking. These boats are so fast, right? And they sail 24 hours. They sail all through the night, all through the day. And what happened to this boat a few years ago was that all of a sudden there was this loud sound and the boat shuddered to a halt in the middle of the ocean. And what had happened was that the boat had found a reef. And so on these boats, you have a team. You've got the captain, we call them the skipper. You've got the navigator, making sure the boat goes the right way. You've got the tactician, who's kind of the brains, who's thinking where is the best way to sail. And so you've got various people, the helm, the person actually behind the wheel, and so on. Anyway, when anything goes wrong on the boat, it's the captain's responsibility. So it's a very easy answer, or it should be. And so when this major crash happened, when they crashed into a reef and they destroyed the boat, nobody died, nobody actually got hurt even, but they destroyed the boat. Then they interviewed the captain, and we sailors know that there's only one answer when you're the captain, and that is, I'm the captain. It was my responsibility. The end. Okay. And he said, I'm the captain. It was my responsibility, but. And as soon as you say the word but, then all credibility is gone. Of course, his navigator had not paid attention or whatever, but it doesn't matter. It does not matter who in the team let him down. The point was that he is the captain, he is responsible. And that requires incredible fortitude to be able to accept the fact that one of your team members did something wrong, and you, as the leader, have to take responsibility and not blame them publicly. Takes fortitude. And I think it's only when people learn that difficult lesson that they can truly become leaders.
Yeah.
And it's hard, and it doesn't seem fair. And I don't know, if, in many ways, it's that old saying, you can hear when you, as a child, you say, but that's not fair. And your parents say, you got to understand, James, life isn't fair. Get that lesson into you. And that's okay, So, yeah.
Yeah, that was really profound. It just dawned on me that me having some project on site and having to bring people on it, despite I will run at loss, but I will still pay them fully. So so being a leader has a whole lot to entail. So what do you learn from owing to this course, managing people to more like in terms of working with people? What was your experience with them?
Oh, I think, people will let you down. Some people will surprise you and not, and really go above and beyond. I think it's a fairly healthy point of view to not expect anyone to owe you anything. It's a nice way to be. I think it might have just cut out. I'm just going to pause it there, Aro.
That's really been a lovely episode with James. Thank you so much for all the invaluable lessons you have put out into the course of this conversation. Yeah, we couldn't finish it owing to network, but thanks a whole lot for being on the Aro Benaiah Show. Yeah, thank you, James, for sharing your journey from hands-on construction to transforming workplace culture through recognition. Your insight shows that leadership isn't about rules and regulation. It's about valuing peoples and empowering them to succeed. For our listener, you can connect with James and learn more about Scratches using the link in the show notes below. If this conversation inspire you, don't forget to share with your fellow treat persons are leaders, passionate people who are about building safer, stronger workplace. Until next time, keep building with purpose. This is the Aro Benaiah, and you have been listening to the Aro Benaiah Show. Looking forward to seeing you in the next episode. Thank you.